Hello, Steve White, Steve White's 89. Well, I watched Berserker. I've been sort of hunting down 80s films, and this is from, I think, 1987. Yeah, July 1987. It's interesting. The Berserkers were apparently Viking legends of warriors who ate human flesh and weren't allowed a peaceful death, and were reincarnated in their bloodkin. So relatives, I think, is how it worked. And basically, you have this old couple at first who are camping in this area they've always camped in, who get lost and get killed, which I thought was really mean. But you do see bears, so it's like, well, is it the bears killing them, or is it actually the berserkers? Is there a berserker? And like they show at the start, they sort of show the Vikings and that, and then they sort of cut to current times, and they have just a bunch of kids. There are 4 of them, I think. There's 3 couples who are basically just going to this camp for the holiday, and they just assume, the guy used to go there all the time, so he just assumes the cabin he usually had would be available, but supposedly it's not, and he gets really pissy because he's like an annoying 80s yuppie teen, like so many of them were. The more films I watched, the more like yuppie teens there are in the 80s. But they eventually negotiate with the guy, I think his name was Pappy, to use one of the other cabins. But then they go to the cabin that he wanted originally, that was supposed to be taken, but actually wasn't taken, because I'm guessing it was the old people who had it, who just went missing. I think they just went missing. Now, God, I'm not quite sure that part of the story makes sense, actually, because if someone was staying there, they couldn't have stayed there. If it was them, why wouldn't he have let them? Because I think there's a fairly big gap between them going missing and these kids arriving and all that. So you basically see them just doing camping things and sort of going off one by one, and disappearing, and suffering the fate of some furry monster attacking them, which is it a bear, is it a berserker, you're not really sure. Eventually we see it's actually a berserker, and it's a guy basically with animal furs on and a mask made out of a bear's face. And there's a fairly interesting scene where you see the berserker actually fighting the bear. And I was like, how is this bear not going to react weird to this guy dressed like a bear, like attacking him? And I think some of the close-ups were with a fake bear, and the real bear, he's not really, attacking the bear. So I think they did a decent job of matching the real bear and the fake bear. Sorry, my camera died for a second there. I enjoyed the film. It was kind of fun. The teens being stalked was done fairly well. They stuck together for the most part. We see early on they also get chased down by a cop for littering on the way there. And we see later the cop and Pappy talking, and they're talking about the fact that these kids are out there, and the police officer's concerned about them because of the old couple that disappeared. And Pappy's like, oh, they'll be fine, because one of the kids has been coming here since he's a kid. He knows the land and everything. But then they go to look for them. They can't find them because they're, of course, at the other house. And then they go to the other house, and then they're looking for them. They're at the other house, and they've already moved. So they don't get a rescue because they're not where they're supposed to be. And eventually the berserker fights the bear and gets injured, and then they also shoot the berserker, and they actually win. The police shows up, and he actually does the sort of final kill shot, and they sort of all live happily ever after for the most part. But we find out that actually Pappy was the berserker, that it must be one of his ancient relatives, Viking relatives, that shared that bloodline. And at the end we see that it's him who's lying passed out, that he's turned from, I guess he turned into the berserker, because the berserker was really fit and he was not. So it must have been like a werewolf, where you change shape and then when you die you change back to your original form, because he was just laying there and he was Pappy without the I think his name was Pappy, with the mask taken off. But yeah, it was a good 80s film. The way they set it up, the kids getting together and going, the banter, the camping and the hanging out, it all works really well. You sort of get to know them a bit, and you actually are kind of worried. And at first you're not sure if it actually is a berserker or if it is a bear. because it could have been just a legend and they could be afraid and running from the legend the whole time and it ends up not being that. So it could have gone a couple of different ways. And the idea that it was happy at the end, because I didn't really get the blood part, that it was they were sort of reincarnated for a blood relative. I just sort of saw that when I was just reading the notes now. I'm like, oh, so now I get it. Now I get how that happens or why that happens. But yeah, I liked it. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of Berserker, if you've seen it. If not, I'd see it. I'll put it on the list of 80 slashers, sort of adjacent to camp slashers, because they sort of camp at this, this shack. But it's not actually a camp. But, yeah, I'm going to go. Bye.